Like, I think this is a nice image, but this is a big empty room. What are these people looking at? Like, what have you come to this museum to see? 121. Okay, I can't read this title. I see this little orange translucent fish looking thing here, but it looks really nice actually, I think. So we have a roof garden. We have this big opening here. We have a canopy there, so that is the entrance. So that's a good image too. Uh, Quite a complicated site plan diagram here. A lot of arrows. I'm not really sure which way to look. Might come back to that. New museum gathers its inspiration from modest Nordic approach. Nordic? A lot of detail missing here in this staircase. For example, where are the handrails? That's a little bit weird. Weird that you would include the balustrade here, but then you would just actually stop it and not continue it all the way up and around. I don't think that's a design decision. Image three. Really big swoopy canopy here. There's just, it looks a bit bare, like a little, like it's sort of missing some stuff. It's not a lot of real detail in it. Image four. I like this interior space. I like the parametric, uh, parametric coffered ceiling. I just wonder why this is solid here. Wouldn't this be more interesting if the light could come in through the ceiling? I think it sort of does that here and here, but not everywhere else. Like, I think this is a nice image, but this is a big empty room. What are these people looking at? Like, what have you come to this museum to see? It's a little bit like, is the room itself the exhibition? Like, have these students come for a study trip to see the space, or have they come to see, you know, the contents of the museum? There's nothing here. It's a nice space, there's nothing here. Image five, references. This one, I think this one just needed more time. I'm not sure what happened. I just don't believe this is the level of detail in which the architects wanted to submit it, but I think they just ran out of time. It's not bad. It's just missing a lot of detail. Moving on to the next one. 122, Helsinki's podium. Yeah, seeing quite a lot of podiums. Again, we're doing a turn around. It's like, what is happening? A lot of stairs. I'm sure someone in the comments will say, but there's a lift inside, it can take you up here. It's like, that's not the point, and if people haven't caught on yet, that's not the point I'm making when I'm critical of these big, giant external stairs, and I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say. Interesting though, I don't think this looks that bad overall. It is a design podium that showcases Finnish architecture. Oh, that's cool, yeah, like a little bit of a sculpture garden thing happening here. Image two. Yeah, it's like, again, 122, this isn't your fault. It's just the order in which I've come across your project. I've seen these diagrams so many times. Just, yeah, like up, around, up, viewing platforms, public gardens, shared staircases with exhibition equipment and stuff on it. Much more. There's not a lot of like, there's no X factor to these proposals that do this, that make this move. Like, I'm yet to see one anyway. A lot of architects are doing it. It's a nice image. Yeah, nice to see some actual gallery content in here. I like this little treehouse up here. This is cool. I wonder who gets to stay there overnight. Oh, I'm just joking. Little UFO dude, love it. Nice image overall. Yeah, I do feel sometimes like Snowhetta have just kind of broken public space design in general, in that everyone sort of makes these kind of moves now. Um, Interior's okay, I guess. I guess my problem with this interior, well, I'm a little bit fussy about how that corner detail gets resolved. I guess my, like, for example, this meets that's a bit funky, and this doesn't line up with, I guess they're not structural, but maybe they are structural. I don't know. My problem with this really is that it feels a little bit more like a library, like a public library or like a university building. Not so much, not so much a gallery or an architecture museum. What's he doing down here? He should watch my videos. But it's not bad. It's good image, good professional image. It's just the design isn't really like getting me excited. A lot of diagrams, clear diagrams, all very nice. I think this is a perfectly competent project. It's just I've seen versions of it already. Some way worse, some way better. It's just it isn't. It hasn't really distinguished itself in the 122 that I've reviewed so far. But that's not your fault. It's just the order in which I've come across your project. Moving on to the next one. 123, the Little Proteus. I always find, okay, seeing Alto Vaz here, but I always do find that the projects that make this kind of isolated, curvy, circular block with the vertical facade elements generally underwhelm me every time. But let's have a look here. This one has a little bit of spice in it, in that there's a setback and there's a nice colonnade here, which looks quite nice. And I do actually, although I do see, I mean, maybe I'm going to be proven wrong here, but I do see the reference quite clearly in this. This one could be quite nice. So let's see, image two, design concept. Looks a bit like an intestinal tract or something, like squashed little pipe. Looks very bioorganic or something. Like, I don't know how you would resolve these really extremely acute angular details in here. I'm not really sure how these spaces would actually feel. I wonder if there wasn't a way. I find it really interesting in that the geometry of the external skin is actually almost kind of applied in a parallel way to the inner skin. And I don't think that was probably required. Like, for example, let's just imagine this as one solid mass and ignore the central courtyard. I bet there was some flexibility here to make something different in here, even just in terms of shape. Because what they've done is they've actually continued this on the inside as well. And it makes for these really uncomfortable spaces, although the structural details might be quite interesting. There's some nice process diagrams here explaining how they've arrived at the shape. See, undulate. It is funny. Okay, maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe there will be zero reference to the alto vase in this project, but you don't need to explain to me how you've ended up here, because I kind of think I already know how you've ended up here, but that's okay. Image three. I think this is really nice and playful. Yeah, it just looks really, it looks fine. Like, it's quite peaceful. It's quite playful. It looks well considered from the outside. I do wonder though about, it looks to be that there's an internal lining in here through the screen. It's almost like there's another grid in behind this. And I do wonder about the quality of daylight. I also wonder about how that space feels on the inside, that verticality being so relentless. I'm always concerned of spaces feeling prison-like. And there's not a lot of opportunity here really to offer a view anywhere else unless I'm reading this wrong. Like, it's quite relentless. It would be nice to see this sort of language, this rhythm, sort of disrupted occasionally to free up some window space, some openings, just to give people a little bit of a breather. Because this might be quite an intense space to be inside, especially on an overcast day. Well, it is quite an intense space. Actually, this is really cool. I think I like this quite a lot. Again, though, like, I mean, you can see this here. Um, There is absolutely a little architectural game being played here, but I don't know if I want to give the architects credit in that that was the intent rather than the consequence of the decisions that they've made with the massing. In that I do sort of love how this sort of threshold here is mirrored and it's pivoted on like a singular column that sort of resolves this super tight little pocket here that creates this opening above it. The little architecture nerd in me sort of wants to dissect this alone and just ignore everything else and think about that as as the sort of basis of an architectural project. But I will not be doing that here. So maybe I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and think that there was some type of rationale involved in this, but I actually just think it's a consequence of some of the more fussier details in the project. This is quite nice. It's a really interesting project. Maybe it feels quite cold in a way, although the tones are quite warm. The daylight here looks quite warm, but I mean cold in that it's quite raw and quite stiff and quite, I don't know. Just maybe it's the stone. panels here, the cladding that's being used. I think this is really cool. I quite like this interior space. References. Oh, oh, that's a nice reference as well. Yeah, some alto going on. I wish this one had a bit more time. Not a big fan really of the inner lining, although seeing the internal lobby, the interior, that's really exciting. I never would have guessed that space would have been as resolved as it is based on this diagram, but kudos to you, architects. Um, Needs more, I think, overall. But as a piece of architecture, I think it's got potential big time. So yeah, I think I like 1, 2, 3. So nice. Gonna move on. 1, 2, 4. ADM 360. Big green roof, big circular opens, big undulating facade, multiple little volumes here, lots of green space outside. It looks a little bit like a golf course. Um, Let's see. Nothing is as dangerous in architecture as dealing with separated problems. If we split life into separated problems, we split the possibilities to make good building art. Alvar Aalto. Who am I to dispute the late, great Alvar Aalto? Dealing with complexity is the fundamental task of the architect's work, unless that complexity is self-imposed, which I would argue is often the case with a lot of these projects, but I will bite. And let's see what we got next. Image 2. Yeah, nice photographs. Interesting. Complicated diagram. And I think you have a complicated diagram because from looking at the massing here, you have a complicated project. There are a lot of little pieces, a lot of these little cuts, and a lot of these little nooks and crannies suggest to me that this has primarily been designed in plan, and then it has sort of been applied then to 3D in a weird way. It's almost as if the plan has been sort of projected into this 3D mass. Now, I'm not going to critique anyone's individual design process. It's just that's how I'm reading this, and that you can almost see the brief, the programmatic brief in 3D sort of applied to these spaces, and there's not a lot of flow between them. Everything looks quite segregated, in that like I could imagine that this piece is one part of the program, this L-shaped piece is one part of the program, this curvy piece with an L piece with another L piece is a part of the program. Do you know, like maybe that isn't making sense, but that's just how I'm reading it. Image 3, really nice facade. I really like this. A lot of different things happening here. Actually, quite a lot of different things. So you have this facade here that sort of continues on this plane, but then you have like the roof opening above it, and that's like a double height space with a tree inside it. And I'm going to hold off on being too critical of how the tree would actually work and grow, but I think that looks like a beautiful little space, although it could be quite dark. But I think this is a nice idea. And then that sort of goes into this curvy space that has this interesting diagrid-like screen with these openings above it. I think there are a lot of big architectural ideas here. I'm just not so satisfied that it's all coming together in a way that's super clear. Less exciting on the inside, but it might be to do with the quality of the image. Not a big fan of lens flares in general. Um, It's fine. It's good. I think it has potential. Yeah, like the last one, some really nice references. I love it when there's some classical paintings included. Just like paintings in general. Good. Don't love it. A lot of questions. I think it probably, rightfully, as they all do, needs like another revision, another level of work. They might not get that. They might not be invited to stage 2. That's fair enough. Not bad work. Just one. Yeah, like for example, this little thing here. It's so subtle. I almost wish that there's an interesting idea here, and I almost wish this sort of idea was applied to the entire scale of the project. You know, this idea of disrupting the mass with these pockets of open air light wells instead of having these kind of artificial light wells. That seems to be what is most architecturally intriguing to me, this corner. I wish that was applied to everything. But I'm not the architect, I didn't design it, it's just my opinion. Moving on to 1, 2, 5. Am I reading this correctly? Sisu? Sisu. This looks really interesting. Anyone who's noticing, I'm not drinking coffee today, I'm drinking water because I am over caffeinated. Way too caffeinated. Joke, I'm still drinking coffee. Don't be ridiculous. Okay. This looks really cool. Already I sort of like the way that it's sort of just positioned here on the site. Diagrams look sort of interesting. Explain to me your design concept, number 125. Originates from a profound sense of respect for the existing South Harbour. An interpretation of the museum's most successful qualities. Fair enough. Let's see image 2. Again. This one isn't... I do feel like Project 111 was not as well received on the last video as maybe I thought it might be, but I do think that they have quite well. That's a very good example of a project that resolves the complexity of the geometry of the site. I'm not saying this one doesn't do it. It's just you can see here that when you place something quite orthogonal, even at an angle, you're left with these triangular wedges that sort of need to be resolved. I like the roof profile. The sawtooth roof. Sawtooth roof. Looks pretty good. Real technical page here, but I can still see the massing, so that's interesting. Image 3. I actually really like this. I'm a fan. I don't know what you guys think. This looks kind of cool. A lot of, for example, you have these like structural, I mean, we obviously have these giant trusses, presumably made out of wood. And then the way that they sort of relate with this horizontal stone banding. And then you have this like cantilevering gallery. I like the way that the lettering's been applied to the facade. There's different degrees of visibility around different aspects of the facade. Like this looks like we have some type of corrugated glazing here. Maybe it's polycarbonate. I don't know if it's plastic. And then this looks like, you know, traditional solid glazing. And then it looks like some really beautiful ceiling structure articulated here. Let me see. I like this space here on the outside. Big ramp. I mean, I know I'm always crying about the stairs and like, what about the ramp? And then you look at the ramp, and if you're assuming that the ramp is up to regs and it's standard and it's made correctly, it still looks quite steep. And then this sort of thing here is quite defensive here out towards the harbour. But I do like the way that the building is sort of elevated on a plinth. I do love that quite a bit. Canopy here, entrance looks quite easy to read. I really like this. Image 4. Interior is beautiful. Aha. A little bit of a alto motif here on the furniture, perhaps. Again, this interior showing different use cases is fantastic. This is quite a clever use of the or how do I say this? There is a requirement that the online gallery needs to showcase your lobby space, and I've been quite critical that the lobby spaces in general have been really underwhelming ways of which to sell the project. But these guys have been quite clever in that they've said our lobby space is actually quite flexible. There's an interior concept. They call it the public hall, the forum, accessible via the exterior ramp. Free public space is the mixing chamber and organizing element to the entire museum. And they've showed multiple use cases of how that space could be used. And I'm like, boom, well done. Well done. Very good move. Big fan of this project. Interior image, beautiful. 5 concepts or reference image. Oh yeah, okay, of course, that's quite a... generally, I would say the projects that include the blockbuster architectural masterpieces from the 20th century usually let themselves down. But in this case, the use of Sinitzalo, if I'm saying that correctly, is applicable in that the entire project here is elevated from the ground, in which they've sort of done that here, but maybe it's kind of not as applicable. But you know, they're not literally saying, hey, our building is like that building. They're just saying, hey, look, we've studied some of the examples of the finest architecture Finland has to offer in the last 150 years, and we thought we might, you know, reference that in a little bit of a way here. So, well done. Really love this one. 125, awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Again, maybe I'm way off and people will disagree in the comments, but my taste is my taste. So 125, well done. 126, the mountain. The mountain. Did I just get a text? Am I in trouble? Nope, I'm good. Good, good, good. Okay. 126. 126, the mountain. And it very much is a mountain. Bit of a messy mountain. this mountain, and then we got this big drum-like cylindrical structure, and a little tiny drum over here. Image two, amazing seeing the model. Um, it's like physical models generally. I think physical models are important. Like they showcase 3D thinking. Maybe let's save that for another video, but I'm always saying fair play if you've made a model. Um, I have to be honest, the model's probably more exciting to me than the CGI images, and that the idea is a bit clear here, but I do wonder, yeah, it does. So, see, it would be interesting to see the section through the mountain itself, so that I could see how these interior spaces relate to this mountain. Image three. I mean, I'm going to just have the same criticism for this generally as I've had for all of them. I just don't know how feasible these types of projects are. You're looking at 20-year investment and you're hoping that it becomes as beautiful and as lush and as organic looking as your CGI suggests. I just don't think that's a sustainable way of bidding for a competition. Space is nice. It seems to be sunken here within the mountain, so that's what I was hoping to see. That's quite nice. Yeah, structure really interesting. Not sure how that resolves itself. I think there might need to be a column here or something. Image five. Yeah, nice images, nice sketches. I think this is I think this is quite a playful project. I think it's very sincere. I think these architects really stuck to their guns and just really kind of went for what they wanted to go for. These diagrams are quite nice. I just don't think it's a winner for the same reasons that I have issues with any of the projects that provide these artificial mountain landscapes. But this looks like good work. So good work. Just don't think it will win. 127, 127, drifting clouds. This thing is a bit of a spaceship looking thing. A lot of different angles, a lot of different swoops. Drifting clouds, image two. Is that a model? Ooh, I do love physical models. Um, this is a bit of a difficult to read diagram. Sort of like arrows without the arrow points. So it's just like a bundle of string here. I don't really know how I'm supposed to be reading it. Image three. I like parts of it. I just don't know what the parts are that I like. I think this is a bit too big, this piece. But I like this opening here. And I like the sort of homogeneous, solid nature of it, which makes these like openings really impactful. But for example, is that like an auditorium? Sort of reads a little bit like one, but then I don't know if that was part of the brief. Image four. Nice collage like images. Always a fan of that. Gives me a real flavor for the space. Some swoopy openings up here. Nice. References. Big cruise ship as a reference. Iceberg as a reference. Star Wars spaceship reference. Snowhetta reference. I think it's fine. I think it's lacking a lot of detail. I think it's okay. Yeah, it's fine. I don't think it's gonna win. I don't think I would pick it as a winner, but I think it's fine. Good, good. 128. Valo Alto. Lots of things happening here. I like this little diagram down here. I like this little diagram, and then I look at the diagram and look at this, and I'm like, okay, something here. Lightwave is born as a landmark that harmonizes with the Saret master plan, complementing the city's urban fabric. Emerges as a functional loop of undulating shapes. The atmospheric room. I do like an atmospheric room. Diagrams. This is actually quite interesting. I think this has been considered. It's been thought through. I think it looks interesting. I don't think I'm going to, ding it for, how do you say, my personal preference, like because maybe something I don't agree with. I think this looks actually really interesting. Like I love how this swoop is resolved here on the corner and it becomes like this jut straight line and then whoosh, dances again whoosh, around the corner, and how this sort of blends into this and everything just becomes this kind of really cool curvy project about surface and thickness, I guess, in that we have the perforated brick here, but then we have the real confident openings, and then we have the sort of sneaky openings in here. It's a bit, it's a bit big maybe, but I like the brick. It looks like a thin white type of brick. Image four, this interior image is fantastic. Absolutely beautiful. The way the light works here is just fantastic. There's a consideration for how the openings would work with the material. I love that. I like seeing the joints. There's a real consideration for detail here. Space is incredible. The space is fantastic. I'm seeing the lights, the physical. I'm seeing the gallery lights in here. I wonder about the spacing of the horizontal beams. Maybe it's a bit unnecessary. I don't know, but I wasn't the architect. There's quite a lot, although the effect is fantastic. Space is incredible. So now, this is sort of winning me over big time. I want to go back again. Yeah, again, another incredible space. But where does this occur in the plan? Mm, I think my biggest gripe with this project really is that it's very big and chunky. Um, it's quite dominant. Uh, I do wonder if, like, for example, obviously the architects who designed this interior space are very good architects, and they obviously knew what they were doing with this. So I'm not being so critical of what they've done. I'm just, how do you say this? For example, this all sort of reads like one type of project, but then the effect just doesn't sort of work in the aerial image. So maybe the problem I have with this is just the aerial image. You know, in that, like, it looks more like it's disrupted. There's less harmony in the aerial view. Like, it looks like it's broken up into different pieces, whereas here it looks quite confident as like one building. Like, you know, like this to this is like, oof, very good. Image five references again, very great references. Beautiful little sketch. Oh, I love that sketch. I think this is a very good project. I just wish, kind of wish I hadn't seen the first aerial image because it sort of set the tone for me, but that's my fault. So 128, beautiful work. Really like this. There's been some good ones in this 10. Okay, gonna go on to the next one. 129. Oof, urban lanterns. This looks a bit scary, but these look quite cool. Three little boxes, or well, two big boxes and one smaller box. Urban lanterns. Image two, diagrams, typical neighboring building, split by a curve. Why would you split it by a curve? Rotated. New museum typology. I'd always be weary of any project that's proposing a new museum typology. Just in that we know certain museum typologies work. Do one of those. I'm not trying to stand in the way of your creative freedom. I just don't make life difficult. Cultural beacons formed by the site itself by deploying the single curved and split gesture from the Skepsbrogatan Boulevard. Really nice diagrams. I wonder really just about whether or not the curved aspects of this project are required. Image three, yeah, I like the screen, and then I like the openings. I kind of like this. Image four, not so sure how this works. This under here is usually what I kind of define as dead space. It can't really be used for anything. You can imagine a little kid just kind of crawling under here, little kid and getting stuck. I would have got stuck under there when I was a kid. Again, lack of resolution here. Maybe too much of the 3D model is apparent in this image. Nice view out of the city. References are nice. I think it's fine. It isn't blowing me away. I don't think it's a bad project. I think there's some really big ideas. Just in the 5 images, I just haven't fallen in love with it. I might come back to it another time. So that's project 129, and now we're gonna go to 130, permanence, permanence. Okay. This looks like a little greenhouse, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I like the facade, looks interesting. I like the timber structure being expressed through the external lining. Quite nice. I actually like the kind of volume of it, this little trapezoid dude. Image two. Oh, beautiful image. Beautiful image. The urban artifact is a plea to project spatial conditions for an open, urban, and democratic society. It's a bit lofty. Nice diagrams here. Okay, this seems to be a diagram focused on connecting the park to the plaza, which is good, because I don't think a lot of projects have done that. Well considered, unexpected encounters, platforms, all good. This image is gorgeous. Beautiful image. 3. This image is not so much, a little bit darker, a little bit gloomier. Beautiful image down here as well. Mm, they're absolutely playing a game here with the articulation of the facade and the structure, and that they've got these sort of modular bays. I just wonder why the central bay is the taller one and not the bottom one, but that's just a question I have. There seems to be this interpretation to some type of traditional order, and then they've played around with it a little bit, but that's fine. Play around. I quite like this one. Image 4, interior. I like it. My worry with this image is I can feel it, sort of like my feet getting dirt on it. Do you know, like, just can feel this getting a bit dirty. This looks like a bit of a dirty space here. This looks beautiful and clean. Oh, this is really nice. Yeah, this is a really nice graphic. I like this too. I think this is a good project. This 10's been good, I think anyway. I don't know what you guys think. Yeah, this is good. Good as well. Good. Okay, so that's another 10, another episode. Um, I have a lot of projects to get through because this deadline is looming. I have until November 29th. So I'm gonna do my best, guys. In the meantime, like, comment, share, subscribe, keep chatting in the comments. Let me know what you think. Am I right? Am I wrong? Have I missed something? Is anything over my head? Again, as usual, let's keep the conversation going. Okay, people, talk soon. Goodbye.